Hey, good morning, everyone. I hope we are all well this Saturday, and thank you for joining us at our JA Alumni Webinar Series. This week or this month, we have decided to focus on venture capital and how to secure it. And for that, we have Mr. Nicholas Higgs, and he is from Access Accelerator Small Business Development Center, SBDC. And Mr. Higgs is a former achiever and is also the deputy director at SBDC and heads the business development side and leads the team of business professionals. And that's across all of the family islands. So we are going to invite him to speak in just a few minutes, just some housekeeping. Want to remind everyone that we should remain muted as the presentation is happening. And once we have started, and there's a question and answer period, that would be the time to unmute and ask questions from Mr. Higgs. Mr. Higgs and SBDC are also sponsoring this year our Bahama Jack Conference. And for those of you who don't know, our Bahama Jack Conference is a conclave that's hosted every year by Junior Achievement. And we offer the kids career guidance sessions. We have a keynote speaker this year, which is Mr. Harrison Thompson. And we also have fun activities for the kids because it's absolutely completely virtual. That means we're going to be having a dance party with DJ Snacks and also a virtual a virtual scavenger hunt. So if you do have kids that are in the 10th through 12th grades, Bahama Jack is free and it is hosted completely virtually, open to all islands in the Bahamas. So again, just for those who have joined us, Mr. Nicholas Higgs from SBDC will now take the floor and tell us all about how to secure our venture capital for our small businesses. Mr. Higgs, the floor is yours.
Good morning. I'm going to try and share my screen right now. Okay, can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good morning. Oh, what's happening here? Oh, I do not know why it's doing this.
It just wouldn't be a Zoom meeting without some technical difficulties, you know?
Let's see what happened to it. All right, let's see what happened to it. All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Again, my name is Nicholas Higgs, and I'm the Deputy Director of the Access Accelerator Small Business Development Center. And I'm pleased to speak today about how to secure funding and the processes and just opportunities and tips and tricks that occur in securing funding for your small, medium, and startup business. So to start off, it's going to continue doing this, looks like. Oh. Let's go right here. So the Small Business Development Center is a tripod relationship between the Ministry of Finance, University of the Bahamas, and the Bahama Chamber of Commerce. And our simple goal is to help small, medium, and startup businesses to succeed, to start up and grow. And this slide is an interesting slide because it shows that MSMEs around the world make up about 95% of businesses around the world. And the problem is that most of the time, these small and medium businesses don't get the praise and respect that they deserve for the impact that they bring to the community. And what we also do, and so, for this conversation, we're mainly speaking on access to funding. However, and most of the time, persons come to the Small Business Development Center for funding. But to me, so the funding aspect is the last part of the chain of a small business, as in to begin, especially for a startup business. But the most important points come with the development of the business, the viability, the understanding, and to putting together a strategic plan to execute this. And so there's a saying we say in the Access Accelerator, it's where most clients feel that the worst thing to happen is they don't get funding for their startup, when that's not the worst thing in our eyes. The worst thing in our eyes is someone receives debt or have an equity shareholder and the business has not been tested for their viability and analyzed properly, to a point where you start this business venture and then you have shocks up and downs, and then the client cannot pay the debt back, or the equity shareholder now owns too much of your business, or you cannot appease the shareholders. So the most important thing is, for us, it's not necessarily access to funding. We understand why for the client it is the most important thing. But for us, there's a lot of steps ahead of that. So this is why you see the business advisory section is a key part of what we do. The training section, which we do online as well. The mentorship, which happens post the funding, where those points in which an entrepreneur has the funding now, they have to actually execute this business. Now they're the ups and downs of how to handle your vendors, your clients, your networking, how to get this new contract. The mentorship and incubation is so important in navigating those emotions and those relationships. And advocacy. When a client, we met smaller startup clients who would like to get a contract with Bahama, et cetera, or Atlantis, or another large restaurant, if you want to start making lettuce and you want to provide it. Advocacy pretty much is now, hey, through these relationships, we can now vouch that this client has the ability and capability to actually get this done. And that's a key aspect of what we do. And our budget, shameless plug, a budget of 55 million for this year. And this is literally, when I say shameless plug, this is literally all funding to help clients in some aspect. So this isn't for us to look large in the public. This is to say we have access to this type of funding through many avenues to assist entrepreneurs. And it's still doing this. I don't know. Just information so far since we started September 2018, helped 65 million worth of clients, 150 clients, 15 islands, 38 industries. This is an interesting thing for our disaster recovery, which occurred because of, who was this? Hurricane Dorian. That's Abaco and GB. This is information on how those were assisted in that aspect. A good part of this number is we see where we take very great pride in Davinia Grant, who's our executive director, shows that females account for 41%. But technically, if you take in our entire program, females represent over 65%, which is interesting. The business continuity, which was this was during the COVID program. A lot of persons were assisted with that program. And I don't know how we can make it through it like this, but we have the recovery program. And then the fun part is the standalone grant, which is still going on. So I'll mention that later on within the meeting. And then the fishing and farming, which is still being adjudicated now, which is the deadline is still February 28th. For clients who are interested in fishing and farming, you can actually get approved up to $50,000 in grant funding. The preschool grant was a success as well. Now, to get to the fun parts, funding types. So with the SBDC and in general in the market, there are a lot of types of funding just around the world. But the most important one I'm going to focus on here is microloans, loans, grants, and equity. And this right here is one of the most important things. Why do businesses need financing? Everyone says the traditional expansion, or I want to start up. So those are two things normally everyone does. When you find with the SBDC, or just in general when we're consulting, helping persons, you find the reason persons want funding is normally not what is actually needed when you analyze it. So someone may come to me and say, Nicholas, I need $400,000 to start this business venture. But then they'll have certain things within their use proceeds that they don't need, or they won't ladder it, as in phase 1, phase 2, phase C. They want to start with all 3 phases, but then phase C doesn't start until phase A and B occurs. So you definitely don't need the funding for that. So what we need to do is spread out the time so that clients then have funding, and through operating capital, they can get the rest of that money. And also, you don't want to be getting a loan on something in month 1, in which you won't use the equipment until month 9. So let's see if we can get a total loan, but the funding comes out in ladders, where you get the first set of portion now, whilst the second set of portion in month 5, and the remaining in month 8 to 10. And so that helps clients to reduce the amount of interest they have to pay, reduce their upfront costs. And so when you're looking at expansion and starting up, it's so important to understand why you need this funding. And so another part is internal growth. An interesting thing I always look at is depreciation. So depreciation is the normal wear and tear of a asset, a tangible asset, like a car or machine. And let's say it's a non-cash expense, and we treat it as pretty much a cash expense in essence, where it comes to if you have a machine for $10,000 and over 5 years it will last. So you have $2,000 a year, which is writing off if you use the straight line approach. Most entrepreneurs don't save that $2,000 that they non-cash expense. So at year 5, they're now looking for funding to buy that new machine or new car. When through the last 5 years, you should have been saving that money for the time, for when you need it, for when the machine is now completely worn and utilized. So understanding your business venture through the entire process is one of the most important things for a business to get funding and to don't need funding 10 years out, 15 years out. And so, but there's a reality that entrepreneurs will need funding, but there are a lot of slew of reasons. Business starting up, obviously, expansion, obviously, normal working capital, and the normal working capital of just making it day to day, especially during COVID. During COVID, you saw a tremendous amount of clients who 80% of the country didn't work. And you saw a tremendous amount of clients who needed assistance with funding. So just the stages of clients, businesses seeking funding. So I interchange businesses, entrepreneurs, and clients. So just for the record, but a startup, most persons don't even use the word startup appropriately. Some persons use a startup when they're month 1, sorry. It's literally a startup is someone who hasn't started and they're beginning their business. So you look at the seed and early stages. These stages really generally handle when a prototype is occurring. And so you're developing this business concept, developing this business idea. And so with these stages, you're literally looking for usually persons find funding from this internally within themselves through savings or family and friends. Rare do I see really seed stages for small businesses occur for external funding. And the SBDC is trying to help with that. The growth stage and the mezzanine, or the growth stage this is the fun stage. This is your favorite client. This is the client who has already put in the sweat equity, who's put the time in, is developed a few clients, got a few clients, and now they're trying to get this funding to take to the next level, where they started off and they're producing 80 pizzas, and now they're seeing business requiring them to produce 120 pizzas. And so they're literally just needing that help for that extra baker to get that done. The mezzanine stage and late stage and private equity stage don't normally, minus private equity, mezzanine and late stage, not very, very common for small businesses. It's usually for much larger businesses, correct. For mezzanine especially, and late stage, it's not for small businesses. These are clients looking at 5 million in revenue of sorts, who are trying to grow and looking for 5 to 10 million or 5 to like $100 million in funding. So, but here we're speaking mainly of small, medium, or startup businesses. And so most of those companies are in the startup to growth stage most of the time. And so the funding, I'll speak a little more about where the funding comes from. But understanding where you're at is very important. You will find some clients are looking for the growth stage funding where they're like, hey, I need the full $1.5 million. When you don't have a single client. You don't have a single client. And this isn't a heavy machine-based business. So why do you need the 1.5 million? Let's get this prototype out. Let's get this development out there. You know, if you need a restaurant, I understand you need 250 to 300,000. But for some small, medium startup businesses, they're just going straight to, we can handle $10 million worth of funding when you don't have a single client or proven the viability. So right here, sources of finance. I thought this chart was pretty interesting. There are a lot more types of funding methods. There's a lot of funding methods that you can utilize. And so I'll start from the right, actually. The basis of source of generation. So this is one of the most important questions that entrepreneurs ask themselves when they need funding. Can we do it internally? Or are we doing it externally? What are we doing? Is it that we can get funding from our retained earnings from our business, or we're going to sell equity externally? What is happening? So when you look at external, you're going to find debt, you're going to find equity, you're going to borrow from your friend, your family member. Internally, the best case for a business is to prepare and develop so that internally they can achieve funding. But that's just not the reality for all businesses. So there's no shame in having internal or external. Both are great, but you would love to internally get funding. basis of ownership. Now, this is where the big conversation comes in with clients, whether you're borrowing money or whether you're giving away equity. And even saying giving away equity is not the best way to say it. When you're saying you're borrowing, this is when you're going to find, get a loan. Debentures are not really going to be utilized here, but you're looking for loans, short-term, long-term, medium loans. Or equity is where someone has ownership within your company. And there are many aspects. So now the third biggest question you got to ask yourself upfront is long-term, medium, or short-term. And this is where clients get into an issue. Clients will say, hey, give me this money and I will pay this back in a year and a half. And so you're looking for a medium-term loan. And you find that investors immediately, no, you can't pay this back in 1 year. And if you think that, then you don't really understand the viability and the shocks that come within the industry. And so long-term is the most common, but every business venture is different, depending on what you need it for. You may need money just so you could buy inventory from China because your clients are coming in so quickly. You can't wait for the money to come in and then order it because it takes 2 to 3 months. You might need the money now so you could have it in so your working capital can align appropriately. So again, it depends. In understanding your business, in understanding what your needs are, is critical to accomplishing this goal successfully and deciding what you need. And today I'm going to focus mainly on equity, debt, and grants. So equity represents ownership in your company. So every company reflects 100% value. And some may own 10% of your company, 30, 50%, of et cetera. So I put the synonym here because I interchange the words. And so equity is the same as shares, as a shareholder, stockholder, or owner in the business venture. The pros to this is there's no repayment requirement because you only theoretically should pay out dividends when the company has funding to do so, when they have made enough money to do it. It's lower risk in that you're not required to pay them out. You can be a shareholder and never get paid. So for someone looking for someone to get funding, it's lower risk because you don't have to pay them until you're in a position. And sometimes, unfortunately, you never will be. They're equity partners. If you sell beer and you get a shareholder, you bring a shareholder on, every barbecue they have, they're going to bring you a beer. And if you have a party planning company and you bring a shareholder on, any children's party you have, they're going to bring you on or recommend you. So an equity partner becomes a form of advertisement, endorsement. And so a lot of entrepreneurs don't like equity. They're like, somebody's in my company. They're taking a piece of my vision, my dream. And that's not the way you should look at equity. My personal favorite is equity. I think equity is once you structure it correctly, once they get proper value, because you don't have to pay it back. You can buy them out when need be, when the company's doing well. And then they just provide just the advertisement. And so I like that. But the cons are ownership dilution. Obviously, you own less of your company. There's a higher cost to the shareholder because you're the last one to get paid. So usually with debt, the debt holder owns the assets at times. They own the car that they purchased, or they just have a quick, they on the ladder of repayment. If the company goes bankrupt, it goes to the debt holder first before the shareholder. Another pro actually is you see one of the biggest pros is that you get to enjoy the ups and downs of the business. So if the company makes $100, you own 10% of the company, you get $10. If the company makes now $1,000, you make $100. Now the problem is if the company loses $100, 10% of the loss is yours. So that's the risk level. Time and effort as a con. Equity can be very difficult to achieve. There's a lot more questions to be asked for. So it can be very difficult. Now, if your networking is strong or your relationships, you can do that pretty well. But it's usually very difficult. With the SBDC, we've done pretty well with getting equity for entrepreneurs. And this is a very short list. So I'll start from the bottom. Angel investors versus venture capitalists. So angel investors are usually using their own funding in essence, and they're coming into your business and they're pushing you hard. They're intricately involved. Venture capitalists are usually like a group of persons, and their funding is not necessarily theirs. It's pooled together, etc. But the goal is usually the same. The input may be different. But most small startup businesses start from family and friends, and they start off with them investing in your business. Crowdfunding has been around for more than a decade now, and well, more than that. And it's not too popular in the Bahamas. A lot of persons have tried the platforms, and you have a few that's tried. And some are doing pretty well, some are not doing as well. A big problem is the funding, and another big problem is how do you paper trail handled. The Bahamas Entrepreneur Venture Fund is a partner of ours. The Bahamas government has given them money for, I think, almost a decade now, I think, to help with debt and equity. So there's somebody you can apply to through us, or you can actually just go straight there and apply to them. They have a website, and they help with debt and equity. So these are some of the more popular ways of getting equity um, through these methods. And one that's missed out is just going to investors, persons you know who are trying to fund businesses, successful, wealthy persons you know have capital. Um, you can approach them and pitch to them. Debt. Debt is obviously borrowing money that you plan to pay back. So you have loan, leverage, borrowing, liability. And the pros to this is you maintain the ownership of your company. You usually traditionally at a fixed rate, and you're first to be paid out. Cons is obviously you got to pay it back, sometimes very high rates, very high rates. So this is a key part. Depending on who you go to, depending on who you get the debt from, the rate depends. So if you go to Bahamas Development Bank, you would find one of the lowest rates. Go to commercial banks higher. You go to the smaller lenders, it's higher. So it's same with going to a bank. You get a credit card is very different than a car loan, interest rate wise. Oh, sorry, not really. If you get a traditional loan for a mortgage, that's much less than you get for a credit card. So again, it depends, but you can have high rates and affects your credit rating, which is very important, especially with the credit bureau coming out next year or two. Bad debt can really affect how you interest rates you receive and how you receive funding. Cash flow difficulties, obviously, variable rates. There is the fine print. That's something I don't have mentioned in the tips and tricks, but the fine print is so important in getting debt. I've seen persons sign debt agreements where if they don't provide quarterly financial statements, which is difficult for small businesses, their interest rate can grow up by 3-4%, and they didn't know they signed that. So you have to really read those documents, and if you don't know, find somebody who can. It's a lot of pages. It seems very basic, but it's not basic. It's a lot of data in there, a lot of requests in there. So please be aware of what you're signing when it comes to debt. And again, general commercial lenders, private lenders, family, friends. I put venture fund there because they can do both. Crowdfunding, again, not very popular here. Angel and venture investors do debt, but they mainly do equity. Grants is the fun part. Grants are money that you don't have to pay back. This is the fun aspect of it. And so I put free bub there. That's some jargon, but a pro is promotion. So if I give you a grant, whether I'm a donor, whether I'm a government agency, if I gave you grant, I'm going to promote you. I'm going to push you. I'm going to represent you and tell everybody about you. So you have free promotion. And first to be paid is in the concept of you got paid. Cons are difficult to get. A lot of programs are done privately and publicly, and there are strings attached at times. This is something, again, entrepreneurs, please read the fine print. Even with our grants that we do, we ask that you're willing to give data to the credit bureau. So the credit bureau, there are pros and cons to the credit bureau, but we ask the data to be there. Some persons to say, hey, if I give you money, I can post you on any of my social medias whenever I feel like it. And so you need to be aware of what's happening. Uncertain future relates to, you don't know when the programs will occur, how they will occur, if they will continue going. So if you see that opportunity, please jump on that and immediately take that. Now, the grants here are private programs. These are just sometimes just wealthy persons want to give grants, philanthropists, etc. Donors, same. Other government agencies, Ministry of Tourism sometimes does them. And these are a list of some of the grants we do. We have a little more. Our website has more. So, and some of these are discontinued. None of these. Over the Hill happens sporadically to help those in those areas. Disaster recovery for those with Hurricane Dorian. Street vendor for those who, on the streets, they sell their items, the coconuts, the coconut water. You have those who sell the fruits, etc. And the preschool grant was an amazing one because we found that education issues don't start in high school. It doesn't start in a middle school starts at primary. So just to get to some common issues. This is something that I deal with on the daily. The first 5 pretty much form the same bucket and getting funding. So if you're an entrepreneur there, this first 5 are usually the most common, where it's not understanding what your business is and what your business needs. And you can include not understanding your financial situation as well. Entrepreneurs sometimes say, hey, I just need this large amount of money, but they can't really pitch it. They can't really explain it. They cannot really get the investor to understand what your vision is. And so a common big issue is you don't need the funding sometimes. Sometimes, as I mentioned, the peaks are you may be making 80 max, but you're seeing demand for 120. Some say, hey, let's rent a new place out. Cancel this lease, let's get a bigger lease because we need to handle this insurgence of clients. The problem is sometimes you're just not making it appropriately. Sometimes you need to buy in more bulk. If you buy in more bulk, you'll have more to utilize at a cheaper cost. Sometimes you don't understand your cost basis of what it is to actually produce your product. We found an ice cream company that they thought it was per dollar they received, they thought the cost was 25 cents. When actually we brought an accountant in, we found it was 45 cents. Per dollar, they spent 45 cents out. And so they kept trying to figure out why were they running a loss. And so they're like, more funding. They went from like 20,000 in debt to 200,000 on debt. And they just couldn't figure out why we're still losing money. They bought bigger machines, etc. It was because they didn't understand their cost basis. How much did it actually cost for you to produce your item? And so it kept putting them in the red. Bad credit, bad business history. This is a common thing worldwide, where a client will get a debt from CIBC or get equity with somebody who works at CIBC. Unfortunately, that's just what happens. And then they try to get debt from RBC and they look around at their exposure and find out you have bad debts all around. And so this is a thing we're seeing heavily during COVID. A lot of persons are not able to pay back their mortgages or they can't pay back their personal loans. And so you're finding it difficult to get the funding through the commercial bank. So that's why we're looking at other methods as well of getting funding. But these are some of the most common mistakes, issues made. The pitch. I've seen the best business ventures, the most viable, with the best opportunities, contracts signed, and they can't get funding because of their pitch. They walk into the investor and the investor immediately says, I can't trust this person, or I don't see that this person can handle it. And so something that persons don't think of is it's not just the business, it's who's running the business. So I've seen persons come in there in poor looking clothes. And even though I don't really look at that, on some investors do. And so you speak in a lot of very vernacular. And so the investor is sitting there like, is this how they're going to speak to clients? Is this how they're going to speak to other potential companies they want to speak to? So when you come in there, you have to know who your investor is. And that's a critical part of knowing who do you want to be the investor? Who do you want to fund? And this is debt, equity. Doesn't matter. This could be grant. Doesn't matter who it is. In any format you're looking for, understand who you're looking for. Someone may be offering you money, but they're so conservative that when you try to utilize the funding, they're not aligned with you. And so they're now saying, hey, slow down, because they're so conservative. Whilst you may get an investor who's very risky, and they're pushing you to say, hey, you need to get 80% return every year, which is nearly impossible. So understanding who you are and the investor you're looking for and what you need is critical. And the last thing I have mentioned there is the biggest issue I've seen island to island, country to country, business to business, industry to industry, not respecting the investor. You will see sometimes someone say, hey, I need $500,000 to start my business venture. And they say, hey, you give me this $500,000, I'm only giving you 1% of the business. Or I want an interest rate of 1%. Or give me half of this free and I'm not paying you back. I've literally seen those things happen. And immediately the investor says, I've saved this money for 20 years of my life. You have this business venture in your mind for 20 years, but I actually actively saved it for 20 years and you don't have any respect related to me. So one of the most important things is to respect the investor as you would like them to respect you and your vision. And so I've watched the greatest ventures fail or not get the funding they needed because of that. Tips and tricks. Do your research, understand your business venture, understand why persons want your business, whether you're a startup, whether you're existing. There's this book. I have to find the title so I can put it in heads. It speaks not on how businesses succeed. It speaks on how businesses fail. One of the most amazing books I've ever read. It literally only speaks about how companies fail and how the stages are. And one of the first stage of failing for a successful business is forgetting why that person wanted you in the first place. And investors, entrepreneurs start to feel like after they've had success for years, that persons are there because of your name. It's because your name reflects something. Kodak didn't fail because persons stopped liking Kodak name. They failed because they forgot to realize why persons came to them, which was innovative photography, innovative cameras. So when they found other innovative camera companies, they went to them. So remembering who you are and why you bring value is a key reason why you get funding, why you maintain business as a whole. And pitch to family and friends, please. Your first pitch should never be in front of an investor. One, it's never usually very good. Two, the investor never forgets. If you messed up in your numbers, which happens to everybody, they won't forget that the second time you pitch, even though you fix it, they'll say, why didn't you see this the first time? What are you missing now? Always pitch in front of family and friends first. I know it's a little scary sometimes, but pitch in front of them so that they can help you with those initial foundational issues you have. Great. I've watched businesses who couldn't get funding did this 30-second video. I've seen this, it's common now, 30-second video of the shop or the vision, and it's tremendously turned around getting funding, whether it's debt, equity, or grants. Don't expect someone to give you money day one. Don't say, hey, I put this business plan in front of you, and start calling them, hey, where's my money? Or, hey, when can I expect it? Next week? It's a process. Make yourself valuable. When I say make yourself valuable, explain to yourself and to whoever you're seeking funding from why you can change their life in relation to their money. This money is better than putting it someplace else, or you're now a part of this great vision. And don't be afraid to fail. Interesting story to tell persons is the first 5 companies we got funded through the SBDC, all 5 got denied by the person who funded them. We didn't know that. So whether it was the venture fund, whether it was RBC, whether it was the Bahamas Development Bank, they all were denied by the place they got funding to. And after us fixing the plan, helping with it, sharpening their sword, reducing the amount of funding needed, better timelines, they all received funding. And it was always an amazing story to hear, a testament from the investor to say, hey, I didn't want this company, but now I can't believe this is the same company. I didn't know they had all these opportunities. So making sure you understand the viability of your business and doing the research into your business is critical. I put a basic business plan outline. I always put this in here just because a lot of times persons ask me for it a lot. You need to have, even if you elevator pitch, you need to have a plan for yourself and your plan for the person you're seeking money from. And so if requested, I could send out the business plan template for persons to look at. Certain areas won't be relevant to, some will be relevant to. This checklist, this is a checklist that we created where it's key to having this data ready for when you approach somebody or seeking funding. So we could take off franchise agreement for right now. If you're a limited company, incorporated, those things are required. Loan applicant documents, this is usual common information persons have. Now, project-related documents, you need to have these information. It says executive summary, but if you have a business plan, that would be great as well. Historical financials if you're an existing business. Please, this is a bigger conversation in financials. As small, medium-sized business, we don't normally track our financials appropriately. We need to track our data better. They are free. I don't remember the name anymore. There's a free website that allows you to track your financials. Free. And that is so excellent. And we should track our data better because it may be easy to forget about it. But when you're looking for funding, everyone's going to ask for it, especially as an existing business. And you saw a big issue when it came to paper documents after Hurricane Dorian. There were some companies that were tremendously successful before the hurricane and could be tremendously after the hurricane. The problem came with is they had no bank records. Everything was written. The hurricane took it all away. And so they had nothing to show except bank statements, but they didn't have their revenue, they didn't have their expenses, they didn't keep tracks of it. And so please keep track of it, of your financial records. quotes. Obviously have those lease agreements if you're looking for funding for lease agreements. And this data is pretty straightforward. But normally this data is what you like to have when you are presenting and looking for funding. And so I want to speak a little bit more about the SBDC side of it. You can sign up at accessaccelerator.org. Most of our program is done online now. And so with that, you can do training, you can get training and advisory done online to get to the funding stage. These are our contacts. And to speak about the funding. So what happens is, if someone comes to the SBDC, if you have a business plan already, you literally upload your business plan. Once you upload it, it'll be reviewed. If it is up to standard and it's great, you get pulled forward through the process to go to the credit committee where you're now, if you're successful, you get the stamp of the SBDC and sent to the funding agencies. If you're a startup and you don't have a plan, you go through the classes. If you're an existing business and you don't have a plan, you go through the classes. So it's literally a process. If you have the plan, it'll be reviewed. If it's not successful in the review process, you have to take the class. And it's all done online in your free time. And so the process is generally has some hiccups, but it should be a smooth process. And if someone doesn't, please message the help desk. We don't like to keep anyone, I don't like to keep anyone waiting, and Divinia Grant doesn't like to keep anyone waiting. So as relates to how to get funding in this country is usually debt, equity, and grants. Grants you have to pay back, debt you have to pay back, equity reflects ownership within your company. And so I want to say thank you so much for the time. I hope I answered a few of your questions. Just to reiterate again, you can find funding through many avenues, where there's friends or family, where there is commercial banks, where there is government-run agencies. It can be international as well, which is a different process, which is a longer process. There's so many avenues to get funding, and there are different types of funding. And so understanding who you are as an entrepreneur, understand the life stages of your business, understand the funds you need and why you need it is critical to understanding who should be your investor, where there's debt, equity, grant, what you need it for, and how you use it. So thank you very much for your time. And if there are any questions, please let me know.
Thank you so much, Mr. Higgs. So we do have some questions in the chat that I will read out. And from Mr. Hall. So to confirm, if an investor agreed to do equity funding, can they not ask for their funds back, though the company, the founders can buy these shares back?
You 100%. So especially with the deals we do when we help clients get funding, there's automatically written of an exit clause. And so we usually have an ABC of how an entrepreneur can pay you out. But I'll tell you, so a key thing about exit clauses, a lot of entrepreneurs immediately say to the investor, hey, I want to get you out in a few years. But this investor paid money so they can get a return. They don't want to give you, this is not charity. They don't give you money so, hey, they'll be out in a year, they make no money, they just get their money back. Now, so when you pick an investor, make sure that they can bring value to you, whether it's via the board, whether it's just, as I mentioned, they're an advocate for you. And so, yes, we always write in that. The shareholder can't, we're talking much larger companies with heavier corporate governance structures, they can demand buyouts, but not common do you find that in small, medium businesses that the shareholder who invested can demand it. It's usually already written in, because most of the time you get a shareholder, you try to get incorporated. So there are rules, regulations involved with that, but we always write that in completely.
Okay, and again, you guys can unmute yourself and ask questions during this time. So the other question we had from a private chat was, how important is a business plan in securing funding, and how much equity do you give an investor?
So that's two very important questions. A business plan is tremendously important. So I always tell patients, if you're building a house, you have to have a plan for building the house. You can't just build a house and stand in front of it and say, hey, I had a vision. And you need a floor plan. You need to understand the floor plan, the width of the walls. You need to understand you can't be this close to the road. You need to understand the pipes work, electrical work. You have all that. You have to understand, why do some entrepreneurs believe that they can get $100,000 of funding and have no plan, nothing written down for someone to review? You don't have to. So it's very important. But now, if you're a hot dog stand and you're looking for funding just to get some inventory, I'm not asking you to write a 30-page document. Just an executive summary, 2 to 3 pages, explaining why you need it would be fine, with some numbers to elaborate on what you expect to happen. But a business plan and roadmap is tremendously important. Equity, it depends. So the reality of the situation is, you have to understand what the equity provider is bringing. They're bringing the funding to take this away from your mind. They're actually taking this to now the reality. And so I do valuations. And so what the valuation is, I value the company based on the projections moving forward. So if you're saying this company is going to make 100,000 this year, 200,000 next year, 500,000, I then do an analysis of the discount cash flow, dividend cash flow to break down what the value of this company is, and that reflects the amount of money they're giving in. So I use a very methodical approach to getting how much the valuation is based on. And so I've seen valuations range from 1% of the company to 50% of the company. It all depends on what it is. If you're looking for to start a hotel on the water side of Eleuthera, and you don't own the land, and you're looking for this investor to buy the land, to build it, pay for the first 3 months of staff, pay for all the inventory, pay for everything, they're not going to get 5% of your company. They're going to get a considerable more part of the company. That's just a reality situation. So we either respect the investor or respect the entrepreneur. So it depends. So in each avenue, I've gotten fair valuations that made the investor happy and the entrepreneur happy.
Okay, and our next question is, are there any tips for vetting investors?
Oh, this is very important. When you're vetting an investor, I actually like to ask around, truth be told. My first thing is ask around what's happening with this. Does anyone know this person? Have they funded business before? Because the worst thing you could have is an investor who is cash strapped. And I say that in the sense of someone who's going to say, I want this money back in 3 months, 6 months, and they're pressuring you for the money. That tremendously affects the entrepreneur negatively. I give this story, but there's a pizza shop that was in Grand Bahama, and they borrowed $40,000 from the uncle. And they started a pizza shop. Things were going very well. This is many years ago, and they started, let's say, January with the funding they received in November of the year previously. They started doing very well. They were making about $10,000 a month net. They're doing well. The family started hearing and seeing the popularity and started approaching the niece and saying, hey, tell me, did you pay your uncle back? Did you pay your uncle back? And so she took all the money she had and she paid him out. And her big client was schools, and schools closed June. And she went bankrupt. So understanding who your investor is and them understanding your vision is critical. So ask around, use your sixth sense to understand this person's cash strapped. How do they understand what's happening? Now, if you're talking about bigger sense, for an investor come onto the SBDC, I want to see your bank statement, not bank statement, sorry. I want to see who all your investors are. I don't want this to be a company. I want to see who the shareholders within this company investing. So just ask a lot of questions. Ask a lot of questions and understand that you both need to bring value to each other.
Thank you so much. Another question. Can you add your debt to the amount you want from investors in order to clear it?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Okay, so this came from someone, and I think that what they're asking is, because this came in when you were speaking about the, having bad debt and getting funding. I think the question relates to, can you add, I guess, the debt that you've incurred over the years to what it is that you want from the investors? So I guess you start on a clean.
Okay, consolidation.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't because most investors don't do that. They don't take your private debt and add it to your company debt. And that's a common mistake amongst entrepreneurs, merging your private life with your company. Now there's a reality that happens, but you want to keep it as separate as possible. And investors are definitely not going to enjoy your personal car loan that you defaulted on to be added to their company debt. They're not going to like that, or the debt they give you. Now, if you're talking about past company debt, equity side, me, debt side, no. The debt side, because the debt like to hold on to something. I can't hold on to the intangible debt. Now, equity, they're going to enjoy the risk and reward. They're taking on that risk. So they may pay off some of that bad debt if it puts you in a better financial situation for the company. So now that you can get debt someplace else, or that you can get a contract with somebody else. So equity may, but debt side, no.
Okay, and again, we are just reading questions here that came in through chat, but if you do have a question, please feel free to unmute. The expert is here, and he is here to answer our questions. Do you have to pay back a grant?
No. Grants do not pay back. Again, as the words, a grant. So it's you don't have to pay it back. So that's funding. So if you're blessed or benefit someone who got blessed to get a grant, make sure you use that wisely. Make sure you use that for what you actually need it for. A grant is a very big blessing, especially from the government. When you think of a grant that comes from the government, that's the people's money. That's your money. So please utilize that wisely, and you don't have to pay it back.
Okay, and for Mr. Hall, can you describe a wrong approach to an investor that isn't too common, but a big mistake?
When you say a wrong approach to an investor, you mean, I'm not sure, to an investor. Oh, you mean, so if you're approaching an investor, a common thing is just respecting them. People think they do, but you don't. When you walk in there and say, hey, I want you to take as little as possible of my company, or give me the lowest amount of interest rate, and not understanding the market. So the small investors that happen today, you will look at, like, just to say something, simplified lending, easy car. A lot of these, and I'm not speaking with them, but in general, some of them borrow money to invest into so a bank borrows your money through deposits. So they'll take your deposit, and now you're lending them money, and they're paying you 0.0025%. So they can lend you loans at 4%, 5%. Some banks cheat, I don't say cheat, they charge exorbitant amount of fees and interest rates. But then you have some of these smaller lenders, they're borrowing their money not at 0.0025%, they're borrowing at 8%. So their loan that they give you can't be 4%, it can't be 8%, because that doesn't even incur the cost of their staff, their lights, etc. So now you're looking at a baseline of 13%. So they're charging 18 to 20%, which is very high. But understanding why their numbers are that way is so important. So I should approach them, or if I do approach them, what should I expect? So a common thing is not understanding the investor, and a common mistake is not understanding the investor, one, and two, not respecting the investor.
And is there any mistakes that would be uncommon, but still equally as detrimental? Or I guess not as known about?
Uncommon mistake that's not happening is knowing yourself.
That was the question. Mr. Hall, you can feel free to unmute if I'm not explaining it properly, but I think it was something that maybe you hadn't mentioned before. It's probably a better way to put it.
An interesting thing that I see and that has occurred that a lot of persons don't know about when it comes to investors is this is a small country, very small island. And so I've seen entrepreneurs go to investors, pitch very well. The investor does research and find out around the world or around the island, that you have bad debts all around the place. You're not good to work with. You're a serial entrepreneur. And there's nothing wrong with a serial entrepreneur, but a serial entrepreneur that just starts businesses, fails, moves on to the next, never pays people back. So a common mistake persons don't know is you have a lot of skeletons in your closet, and you're not aware that persons might find them out. But I see Mr. Hall is now unmuted, so you're just going to speak.
That kind of answered my question, Nicholas. Thanks. It was just that, it's pretty, the information, what not to do is pretty, widely available. But I know that there sometimes could be instances where you can make a big mistake that many people are not aware about. So you kind of touched on that a few, so appreciate that.
No problem. So understanding their skeletons in the closet. I mean, that's just a reality. And I've watched somebody receive zero funding just because they didn't mention it. Once you don't mention the debt that you have, bad debt or bad equity or bad relationships you have. When I say bad equity, relationships you've had in the past where the business failed, you don't mention those. And especially if you're explicitly asked, they're going to ask around. No one's giving $200,000 and not asking around. That's just the reality of the situation. So that's just people, just to carry very vernacular. People date somebody and they ask around. They just ask, do you know this person? So how do you think someone's giving you $500,000 and they're not asking around? And so a common thing that the SBDC found so my history is at CFAL. And so we helped with a lot of large ventures getting funding. And you found a common thing when entrepreneurs came to us was, we never told them what was wrong. We never said, hey, you were wrong for this. You didn't have this in your pitch. We just say, hey, we'll get back to you. We're not doing it anymore. So an entrepreneur just becomes frustrated and they don't know why they got denied. And so this is to the question I see in the as well on the pitch is why I say speak to friends and families, because they'll tell you the truth. Hopefully, the person you pitch to will tell you the truth, because banks won't tell you. They'll say, hey, our risk department said no. You don't even know the reason why. It's because you use the discount rate of 12% when they want you to use 15%, or your growth rate was 7.5% when they think your industry is only 1%. They won't tell you. So a common thing is you don't know why it happens, why they denied you. And so what the SBDC does, and your friends and family does, who you trust, what they do is tell you the truth ahead of time. And that's a common thing. Before you pitch it for the investor, you would like to know people's true thoughts, so you can already plug in those holes before you speak to an investor.
Okay, thank you. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, all of the questions that were asked today, once you come to SBDC, you guys are guidance tools basically that will help someone through these processes to be able to secure the funding, hopefully without the hitches.
Yeah, so we started off with a training program that was face-to-face, and now we're doing online program. And so the online program is very expansive. So I know there are issues and concerns. I'll admit that there's things that we can do better, and I want to do better. So if you see issues, please send an email to that. I have that attached. I'm the deputy director, but I have that attached. So so once the email goes to the emails, I'm going to see that. And if that's not answered to, I'm highly upset. And I'll shout to the heavens if I see a client who's been in the system for more than a year and something's not been done. And we have clients like that, and that's very disappointing. But I can say for a fact that we're working to fix those, and we want to help as much persons get funded as we can.
Thank you, Mr. Higgs. That's that honesty that you're encouraging entrepreneurs to take on. It's great to see you taking that approach.
You don't do it, I promise you. You literally think, because they won't say it. Entrepreneurs won't say it. They'll just come into the program. They'll just sign up but never answer emails. And the whole program is to help entrepreneurs. So you have to be very honest with your mistakes and the errors you've made, and hope to do better and expect to do better.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm just going to ask one more time if there are any questions from the group. Speak now, or forever hold your peace.
Nicholas, if I could ask another question. I know that you guys' grant funding is currently going on, but in terms of the regular Access Accelerator program, I know that there's a wait list going on. So I just want to know if you can kind of speak about what is the timeline when that, let's say, that would fully open back up per se.
So that's a very good question. The program, and this is recorded, that's an interesting thing, but I said I want to be very frank. When we did the online program, what we did was we started off with the licenses we had. We have only 1,000 licenses, but we have 9,000 persons in the system waiting overall. So 8,000 waiting. And you found that some persons who've been waiting for a long time just didn't use it. They just dropped out in essence. We had to shift the program recently to those who recently signed up are the persons who should get a percentage as well of the licenses, because those are the ones who are ready today. We shouldn't make them wait, because then they become the patients who are waiting for a long period of time. So if someone emails me and says their name, I will definitely get them a license Monday so that they can start the process immediately and be pushed off to the wait list if somebody's interested. So all you do is send me an email. I'll type the email there in the chat, and I'll ensure that you are pushed forward, so you can. Anyone who's serious, we want to make sure that they're not slowed down by that. And the grant program, we're currently in the standalone grant, the third phase, third opportunity. That ends, I think, next week Friday. Started this Monday. $5,000 up to, has to be wire transfers. Grant, you don't have to pay it back. The next one will bring us a technical grant, should be maybe next week or week after that. That's for persons looking for things in the technology field. You need something to technologically advance your company, whether it's a POS system, or new laptops needed or new camera for a photography business to help with that. So, or you're trying to digitize your business, so you need help with that. We're going to help with that. So a lot of grants will be coming up on board via, you look at our socials, a lot of grants, because the reality, especially since COVID, people can't take on a lot of debts. The Bahamas is heavily debted. The Bahamas requirements to get debt in this country is one of the highest in the Latin America and the Caribbean. I think it's like second or third highest based on the IMF 2016 or 17. It is, you have to put your house up. You have to put up your land. Your mommy got to sign on to the loan. Your Grammy got to sign on to the loan. You got to give your salary, got to be automatic deduction. All these things are required when you shouldn't have the rate. So if you're getting a loan for $100,000, you've given that bank almost $200,000 in collateral, which is horrendous. So what we do is we guarantee loans. We guarantee 75% of the loan. So only 25% the client has to come up through the business or the bank absorbs the 25% risk because your venture has been vetted so well. So we guarantee 75% of loans, and we recommend equity as well and push to our equity shareholders, investors. But it's hard out here, so we're trying our best just to help. So the grants are to help. So please take those opportunities and don't take it lightly.
Okay, I'm just a few more questions coming in. Can you explain a little bit more about tracking your finances and free options to do that?
I do not know why I'm forgetting the free option, but to send text to the team right now, because that free option has saved so many entrepreneurs in tracking their finances. So most persons use the popular QuickBook. Send it real quick, but I'll get the name and I'll send it. If anyone emails me and asks me, I'll definitely have that for you by this afternoon. I don't want to hold this up for it.
Okay, no problem. And just for all of you that have attended today, we will also be sending the recording out in case you want to watch it again or share it with friends. And it will also be up on the social media pages. Another quick question coming in from private chat. Would the technology grant include CCTV?
If I'm CCTV is like on the streets, right? Am I correct?
Yeah, I can't remember the.
So I can't control that. But if you have personal security systems or personal cameras, yes, for your business, yes. And just a little more on the tracking of your finances. Nobody is funding really, especially existing businesses. If you can't show the discipline that you are tracking your finances or taking the steps to begin tracking your finances, it's difficult to get funding because investors are like, if you're not disciplined, because you don't know what's happening in your business. So a common thing in the Bahamas and most small entrepreneurs around the world, they just look at their bank account and see it growing or going lower. If it's going lower, they're like, I gotta work harder. If it's growing, I'm good, I could go on a vacation, but you don't know why it's growing. You don't know if it's seasonality. You don't know if it's because the cost of your expenses went down. You don't know if it's because there's a bigger demand. You don't know. So tracking your finances allows you to understand better who you are and what your business is. So I'm hoping someone responds back on it, but definitely I'll send, if anyone emails me, I'll definitely forward that information to them.
Okay, another question that came in just through the private chat. The youth development program that is going on, is it possible to get more information about it?
Yes. So the youth development program is to help those, I think the age is under 30. Yeah, I think it's under 30, to help them and to push them into entrepreneurship. And if I'm correct, I think it's $5,000 as well. That can be done. It's not, no. Oh, sorry. I just got a message from my team just now. Evidently they're on the call, and she said, we're still fully developing the youth program. We're still, so what
if you jump in it, I can tell you what's going on. Sorry. Hi, everyone. My name is Paige. I'm part of the Access Accelerator team. So basically right now, what we're doing with that program, it's not just a funding program. It's supposed to be an all-inclusive, comprehensive program for youth. So what is happening right now is this registration period is helping us understand what the needs are. And from that, it'll fully develop the program. And so that's why we haven't released so much information about it as yet, because we're using it as a registration and a bit of a, I guess, focus group kind of research to make sure that we are fully equipped and are directing the money that we have to the, I guess, biggest needs.
So again, to your team is critical, because Paige went to stop me from speaking on non-public information just now. So thank you so much, Paige, for helping with that. But then I know definitely they'll be providing more data on our social media pages. I'm sure Paige can put that in the chat so y'all can see you're on the way to follow for more data on the programs as they come about.
Okay, and then we have another question in the chat. Interested in a small business grant. Can you recommend a company that can assist with writing a small business plan?
One of the most important things with our grant is you don't need a business plan to apply for the grant. It's going to be a good amount of questions we ask you, and they're going to ask you to write some information, some data. You don't need a full-fledged business plan for this grant. So if you're interested in the grant, do not overthink this. Do not, in the sense of taking too long. Please apply as soon as possible. It's a smooth process. I'll say this is one of the best processes we've had in relation to getting things done. So please Just go to our sites page, put the data in there just now, apply, start the process, and you'll see you don't need a full-fledged business plan for it.
Perfect. Are there any more questions? Okay, I just want to say a huge thank you, Mr. Higgs, for your time this morning and all of the information that you brought to the table. I think it was incredibly informative. And to everyone that has participated, thank you for coming out. And we will be sending, again, the link to the webinar so that you'll be able to review it again, as well as Mr. Higgs, I will put in that link for the funding tracker. Oh, wait a second. There is a question.
One last thing. So Wave app
Oh.
is the accounting software. I just got a message on it. So please, if you look up Wave, W-A-V, no E, if I'm correct, and it's a free accounting software up to a certain point, please utilize that, do your research into that. It's critical. Perfect.
And then we do have a last minute question. Are you currently giving grants toward the construction industry?
Yes, this is a grant we're doing for the standalone grant that's happening now. That's all industries, all islands, all industries.
Perfect. Okay. And then again, please take advantage before the meeting closes to take down the information from Paige and Mr. Higgs and how to reach them. And I hope that you guys have enjoyed this and it has been informative. And again, thank you for joining us and taking some time out of your Saturday morning. And with that, I will bid everyone adieu.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.